know what God has for me next. That's the message that constantly comes through my DMs. So today we're going to sit with it. And by the end of this episode today, you're going to walk away with three questions to ask yourself. You ask yourself, instead of asking yourself, what is God's will? Because that question alone is what keeps most of us stuck. You are going to get the three questions to ask yourself in place of that. So go ahead and pour yourself a lovely cup of tea. Yes, grab your lunch, grab your girlfriends. Meet me here in the Royal Courts and let's just talk about it. I'll see you right here in a few minutes.
Get ready for the RoyalTEA Talk show with host Portia Basham, the podcast designed for women who are looking to be inspired, motivated, and encouraged. Whether you're just starting out in your career or raising a family, the RoyalTEA Talk show has something for you. This is your opportunity for empowerment and affirmation. Get blessed with amazing stories from women of all walks of life who want to share their truths and victories and impact the lives of women everywhere. This is your cordial invitation to join us as we sip tea, chat, and empower each other on the RoyalTEA Talk show and podcast with your host, Portia Basham.
Well, welcome to the RoyalTEA Talk Show. I am your host, Dr. Portia Basham, and I am always grateful that you've joined me today. So here at the RoyalTEA Talk, and I like to call it the Royal Courts, our space, we are in the Royal Courts. We have honest conversations about faith, about leadership, healing, and purpose, not just so we could know more about God, but so we could confidently walk this godly walk out, walk it out with the Lord. So today's conversation is one of the questions that I've been asked a lot. Help, I'm stuck between seasons. So let's go, let's just dive into it. Because I want to talk about something that shows up so often to me. My leading ladies always come to ask, that particular question. They don't ask, how do I grow my business now? They don't come to me and ask, how do I get more clients? No, they go, Dr. P, I don't know what God has for me next. And I hear it so many times in so many different forms. It's the women who's built a whole program, poured years into it. She knows in her spirit that it's time to close it, but she hasn't, because she keeps saying, let me just pray about it for a little bit. It's the ministry leader who has quietly outgrown her role, but she loves the people now. She enjoys her role, but her assignment is changing. But something in her is shifted and she feels it. She's guilty by even wanting to admit it out loud that she is evolving and moving. And it's the woman sitting on the business decision, the woman sitting on a relationship decision. Do I stay or do I go kind of decision? And she's been sitting on it for months and sometimes for years. So, and here is the thing that I want to make plain, because I think it's the real root of it. So many of us have been taught, maybe not in words, but in practice, that if we just wait long enough, I'm talking to myself, if we just wait long enough, if we just pray hard enough, God will eventually remove all the risk. He'll send that neon light. He'll make it so obvious that we cannot go wrong. But my leading ladies, that's not usually how it works though. And I know that because I've lived it. Let me tell you my own version of what this looks like for me. Because I've lived through exactly what I'm describing to you right now. You see, back in 2008, I started what was then called the RoyalTEA Ladies. We hosted tea events, ministry events every quarter. And over time, we built something real. We built the name, the following, the community of women who knew exactly what to expect when they showed up at those events. Then in 2010, I believe 2010, 2011, my family and I moved from Orlando to South Florida. And listen, let me just be honest with you, because in that move, something in me broke right there. Why? Because I felt like as if I had failed. Because now I had to start over, a whole new city, whole new faces. Listen, no built-in audience, none of that support system that I kind of, nurtured in Orlando. And starting over like that, I felt like I'd failed everything that I believe God had called me to do. So for 5 years, oh yes, for 5 years. And listen, I didn't touch that ministry for 5 years, not because God took it from me now, because I convinced myself that I had nothing left to build with. I told myself that I didn't know where to start. I told myself that I didn't even know if I was still in the will of God anymore. But if I'm really honest with you, and if I'm really honest with myself, some of that was just blatant stubbornness. Okay. I believe I was stubborn. I believe I just was throwing a fit because I was moved out of my comfort zone. I had a picture in my head of how things should have went. I had a picture in my head of how things should have been, the way it should look based on what I had already done in Orlando and the time frames and the timelines I expected, the way that I wanted God to do it. You and I, you know what I'm talking about. We have a vision of what we think God should do and how he should do it. And when it didn't come back and look the way I wanted it to look, I sat down instead of asking, I sat down instead of asking God, well, what do you want me to do? I just went through my pity party. But then in 2016, I was at church and a man of God was visiting and he gave me a word. And in short, in summary version, he told me this. The Lord is saying the mantle on your life hasn't changed, Portia. It's the same calling, but the location is different because the audience that God has assigned you to is now different. Listen, I want you to hear what it did for me. It wasn't that God was giving me a brand new assignment. It was that I had been waiting for permission to pick up something that I'd never actually lost because I thought I lost it. I thought I was completely out of it. I thought I couldn't do it anymore. Why? Because I did not have the comfortable support system that I had worked on. I wasn't in the usual places, in the usual spaces with the usual people. So I thought I was out of link, out of sight, out of will. So listen, I had just been waiting for it to look the way it used to look instead of asking God what it was supposed to look like for what they should say, what it should represent where I was at, what it's supposed to look like where I was at. And that's when She Ministries was born. It was born out of what used to be the RoyalTEA Ladies. Not because I finally got the sign I was praying for. No, because I finally stopped waiting for the old picture and took the next faithful step in front of me. So if that's you right now, if you've got a decision and you've been sitting on it, dressed up as still praying about it, because you know what we do. We're like, yeah, give us a minute. I'm still praying about it. I want you to stay with me because in a minute, I'm going to give you a completely different way to ask those questions. Not what is God's will, because I think it's just too big of an answer for a random day. Something much smaller, something you can actually use. And when we get back, I'm going to dive in and give you those frameworks that you could work with. I'll see you right here in the Royal Courts in a few minutes.
Want to elevate your leadership skills? Join our Christian Leadership Certification Program, covering team leadership, ministry counseling, financial management, and more. Advance your Christian leadership skills with an accredited certificate program from the esteemed partnership of Christian Bible Institute and Seminary. Visit portiabasham.com/Christian Leadership Certification. Register today and become the Christian leader you are destined to be.
So we just talked about what this actually looks like, the freezing, the waiting. Let me just pray about it one more time. That's really just fear wearing a spiritual costume. So here's what I want to hand you right now. It's not a feeling, it's not a vibe. It's an actual shift in questions that you are asking. Because most of us are stuck asking, what is God's will for my life? Because I used to ask that question too. And listen, that question is not wrong, but it is too big to answer on a day to day basis. When you're trying to decide whether to close your program, whether to shift gears, whether to evolve, whether to send in that resignation letter. So we're going to trade that question with three simple, smaller ones. So write those down and I need you to think about it, to pray about it whilst you are going through, you thinking on those questions I'm about to give. Question number one: what is the next faithful step? Not the final destination, but God, what is the next faithful step? You do not need to see the whole staircase. You need to see the next step. Proverbs 69 says, and he says it very plain, in their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. Not the whole map, their steps, one at a time. God has never required you to have the 5-year plan put together before he'll bless you. No, he wants you to take the next step right now. So, question number two: what door is already open in front of me? Remember the woman with the oil. What did Elisha ask her? Elijah asked her, listen, my leading ladies, listen, what's in your house? What is it that you got? What door is already open to you? Not the door that you're hoping for, but not the door you think would look better on Instagram or on your social platforms. No, the one that's actually open right now today. Sometimes we're so busy praying for God to reveal something new that we miss what he's already answered. Oh my Lord, and I'm talking to myself. We sometimes miss what he's already answered, and it's just sitting right there, and it doesn't look like what we thought it would look like. So we have to say, God, what door is already open in front of me that I have not even paid attention to? Question number three, and this one is going to sting a little, but am I waiting on God or am I waiting on certainty? Ooh, because these are not the same. They're two different things. God doesn't always remove the risks before he asks you to move. Sometimes faith is the risk. If we're waiting to feel 100% sure before you take the next step, my leading ladies, you are not waiting on God anymore. You're waiting on guarantee at this point. And he doesn't usually give those out in advance. You got to take the step. And I'm talking to myself. Dr. P, take the step. Now, let me speak directly to the leading ladies, okay? Let me speak to the leader listening to me right now, to the coach, to the ministry director, to the business owner. Here's the trap that's specific to you. You used to being the one who has it put together. And sometimes that's our biggest problem. As leaders, we are so used to having things put together that you post the confident captions, you give the advice, you lead the meetings. But behind that, you have been sitting stagnant on a decision for months. You haven't told anyone because leaders aren't supposed to look stuck. We've been taught leaders got to have it together. But I need you to hear me and hear me with your good ear. Being stuck doesn't disqualify you from leading. Staying silently stuck and pretending you are not, that's what actually cost you. Not the confusion, but the hiding of it. We see in Psalms 32:8, it states, God will instruct you and teach you in the ways you should go. He will counsel you with his loving eye on you. Loving eyes on you. Not a disappointed eye. He is not up for shaking his head at the decisions you make now. He's right there with you, waiting for you to stop performing certainty and start asking for the next step. So here is where we're heading next, because knowing the reframe isn't enough. I'm going to give you the actual 3-step framework you could use this week to move you on to your decisions that you've been sitting on. So stay with me, and I'll see you right here in the Royal Courts in a few minutes.
She's been watching, wondering, waiting for the sands of time to give way to a tide of change, when her seas can provide safe harbor to all who reach her shores, and her earthly embrace can soothe your soul. Let her sense of adventure set you free, and her everlasting stars twinkle in your honeymoon skies. She is Saint Lucia. Let her inspire you.
Okay, we are back, and I told you I wasn't going to leave you with just a reframe. I'm going to leave you with something you could actually do this week, implement this week. So grab your pen, come sit close, and let us dive into our 3-step framework. So step number 1, write down the fear under the indecisions. Name it specifically. Not, I'm scared to make the wrong decision. No, that's too vague to work with. I mean specifically. What is the actual fear? It is, I am scared I'll fail and everyone will see it. Now that is specific. It is, I'm scared I'll disappoint the people counting on me. Now that is specific. It is, I'm scared, and this means I've wasted so many years because I've worked this ministry for so many years. I've worked this business for so many years. That is specific. So here is why this matters. You cannot pray against a fear you haven't named. Let me repeat that for you. You cannot pray against a fear that you haven't named. Vague fears keep you frozen. So name it. You can actually bring it to God. Name it. There's a difference between God help me and God, I'm afraid that if I close this program, God, I'm afraid if I close this business, God, I'm afraid if I close this relationship, it means I've failed. And one of those you could actually work with. You could actually work with the fact that you said to God, I am afraid that if I do A and B, this is how I feel. That's being specific. So step number 1, write down the fear underneath the indecision. Name it specifically. Point number 2, or step number 2, identify the smallest next action that doesn't require full certainty. Not the whole decision. Not, should I shut down my business? That's the 5-year staircase again. No, I mean the smallest possible next action. Maybe it's one honest conversation. Maybe it's pulling up the numbers that you've been avoid looking at. If you know, if you're going to put a budget together, you need to see the overall spending, how do you call that, list? And some of us don't want to look at that overall spending list in order for us to, write things off. Maybe it's simply praying out loud. God, I think it's time. Confirm it or stop me. And then watching for 48 hours. Watch. Just watch. The goal here is momentum, not certainty. Certainty comes after you move, almost never before. So you just need to stop for a minute. Stop for a minute. Take small steps. Maybe it's time for us to just actually go to God and say, okay, Father, I'm ready. What direction you want me to take? Make it clear. And step number 3, set a decision deadline, because prayer without a deadline becomes avoidance. So I need you to hear that one again. Prayer without deadline becomes avoidance. This is the one leaders skip. It's the one that matters most. You can keep praying about it for the next 2 years. Call it faithfulness, when really it's fear with a spiritual label on it. So pick a real date, not a soon, not when I feel ready. Pick a date, an actual date on the calendar. You know what? In 1 week, in 2 weeks, in 30 days, and tell God, tell one trusted person, hold me accountable. By this date, I'm going to make a decision as to what we're doing. Give yourself a date. Hold yourself accountable. So let me go over those steps again. Our 3 steps, our framework, our framework for us to get out of this help I'm stuck in between seasons. Number one, write down the fear underneath the indecision. I don't want you to write down, I'm scared to make the wrong decision. No. I need you to make it plain and say, I'm scared, I'll fail, and everyone will see it. Okay? Step number two, identify the smallest next action that doesn't require a full certainty. Maybe it's praying out loud. God, I think it's time. Confirm it or stop me. Build that momentum. Then watching what happens in the next 48 hours. And step number three, set a decision deadline. Make someone hold you accountable. Put a date on it. You know what? In the next week, in the next 2 weeks, in the next 30 days, this is what I am going to accomplish. Put a date on it. So let me give you a good example. Let's name her Michelle, a coaching client I had who'd been sitting on a decision about her business for almost 8 months. She had that coaching program she built from the ground up. Deep down, she already knew it was time to close it. Move into something new, evolve into something new. But every time we talked about it, she still had that little saying, give me a few. Let me just keep praying about it. So we did exactly that. We did. But what I did was to walk her through. I said, listen, first, we need to name your real fear. And it wasn't really, what if I fail? It was, I'm scared of closing. That means my last 2 years, 3 years of working this business, that means I have failed at it. That's different. That's specific. That's something you could actually bring to God. But second, instead of trying to decide the whole future for her business in one sitting, she took the small steps. She finally sat down, pulled out the actual enrollment numbers. And once she'd been doing that, she couldn't avoid but look at it. See where it was to vis-a-vis where it is now. And then third, she set a deadline. She said, you know what, in 2 weeks, I'm gonna start to wean it out in 2 weeks. And she did that. And that's it. That's the whole framework right there. Name the fear, take the small steps, and set the deadlines. And if you're listening to me right now, you've been caught up in just one decision. You're trying to figure it out. You haven't been sitting, you haven't been making a decision, but you're just sitting on it. I want you to actually to do this today. Not just nod about it, not just say, you know what, I'll think about it. No, name that fear. Text it to a friend if you know that you need accountability. Okay, name the fear. Then I want you to actually move it. Sit down, name it, get your steps in. What do I have to do? And then date it. So you name it, you move it, and you date it. So coming up next, I'm going to bring all of this together for you. Give you that one thing I want you to walk away with that before we end our episode. And I will see you right here in a few minutes when we talk about the one thing I want you to take as your aha moment for this episode. I'll see you right here in a few minutes.
Looking to get your business moving in the right direction? Great news! Portia Basham, brand and business strategist, is your solution. Portia has helped a number of businesses see immediate results with her business and brand strategies. Let Coach Portia craft a clear and concise plan for your business, a plan uniquely crafted for your individual business needs. Don't hesitate. Contact Coach Portia now to schedule your brand strategy session.
If you remember nothing else from today's episode, remember this one. You don't need certainty to move. You need the next faithful step. So say that back to yourself. You don't need the whole staircase. You don't need the whole guarantee. You don't need to have it all figured out before God can use you in it. You just need the next step. You need to take the next step taken in faith, not in fear, not dressed up as patience. So here's your homework, and I want you to actually to do this, not just let it float by whilst folding your laundry or sitting in traffic, but write down one decision that has been holding you back. The one you've been praying about for months without moving. Name the fear underneath it, specifically, not vaguely. And then set your deadline. Put an actual date on your calendar. That's it. Put an actual date this week on your calendar. And that's your assignment from the Royal Courts today. So, my leading lady, God is not frustrated with your hesitation. He is inviting you to move. And moving looks like obedience with a deadline, not perfection with no end date. So that's our time for today. And as always, I am grateful that you spent it with me in the Royal Courts. If this episode blessed you, which I know it did, if you've been sitting on a decision and you needed permission to stop waiting for certainty, do me a favor. Take a screenshot right now and share it to your stories and tag me. I want to see it. And if you haven't already, head over to the Apple Podcast, leave us an honest rating review. It genuinely helps more leading ladies as yourself find our show when they need it the most. And we are so close to hitting our next goal together. So I'll see you right here next Friday. We are getting into conversations I know that a lot of you have been asking for. So I'm super excited. Make sure you subscribe to the SHETV network channel on our YouTube, and I will see you right here next week for another episode of the RoyalTEA Talk. Until then, stay bold, stay faithful, and I'll see you in the Royal Courts next week, Friday. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the RoyalTEA Talk Show with your host, Portia Basham, the talk show and podcast designed for women who are looking to be inspired, motivated, and encouraged. We pray today's show was a blessing to you. Remember to tune in next time for your regular dose of encouragement and affirmation, so you can hear from other amazing women from all walks of life who share their stories and advice on everything from personal growth to living their dreams. So until next time, we look forward to seeing you to sip some tea, chat, and empower each other